Next thing I want to point out is the most commonly used melody notes in these keys. And sometimes in music you have to take your best guess. And realistically speaking, if it hasn't occurred to you before, when you're out playing music with others in particular, and music is a pretty imperfect science, and most of the times you're playing songs that you don't know very well, or you haven't heard before. And so one of your goals in practice, and one of your goals in building up the ability to become a good banjo player, is to be prepared for situations that you're not expecting, and to be able to basically fake your way through things so that you can make your best guess and get through stuff. When you're making your best guess with banjo playing, the rhythm of your picking, steady picking and good timing is the thing that you should default to first. If you've got good timing and you're picking along and changing the chords in the right place, and you got a nice steady rhythmic feel to your playing, you pretty much have a lot of freedom to play a few wrong notes without it being noticed, because you've kept your rhythm together. So once you've established that you've got good solid rhythm and able to pick along and without stopping and going through without pauses, then you want to try, the next thing you want to refine in your playing is, of course, to play the melody. And you can, by learning some of these tricks that I'd like to show you, you can take your best guess at the melody and start to get these things by ear without the use of tablature. In the key of G on Bury Me Beneath the Willow, again, it started on the third note of the scale. Went So as we played the melody, as I mentioned earlier, we were mostly on the third, fourth, and second strings there. And when the chord was G, we worked the melody around these notes. Okay, so you can pretty much guess that if you're having to do the best you can at shooting for melody notes in the key of G, that as you play around the open chord G, that the melody notes are going to be somewhere around this G, A, B, C, probably in a D note, and sometimes the E note on the fourth string and there. So the melody notes are somewhere around there. So if you're playing a roll, you just kind of, it does narrow it down a little bit. When the chord goes to C, most often in bluegrass music, the melody note is more likely to be based around the A note, the open G, the E note right there, like a lot of... occasionally it will play the root note of C, but a lot of times your melody note is based around this A and G and E note right there. And that comes into play, for instance, in the Bury Me Beneath the Willow when you play the melody. You can see me working around the E note and the A note and the G note there. When it goes to the D chord, or is often called the 5 chord in the key of G, the melody note, you might assume it's the note of the chord, like D, for instance, but usually the melody note, or very often in these traditional bluegrass songs and many songs, when the melody drops to the D chord, or the 5 chord, the melody note is A, which is the 2nd fret and the 3rd string. Okay, so, and you often play something like this, so let's see if I can work that into Bury Me Beneath the Willow as well. You hear I'm hitting that melody note there. And you continue on. So, if we can keep that in mind, that where these most commonly used melody notes that you can use for your best guess when you're playing these these songs in G, for instance, when I'd like to take that with us and go to the D position and show you where those most commonly used notes are playing out of the D form. One, two, three, four, 1, 2. Okay, in the D form, your root note here is on the second string, 3rd fret. Okay, and you've got that 3rd I was talking about is on the 4th fret. And then if you wanted to play the 5th note of the chord, it's up here in this D inversion right there. Okay, so in "Bury Me Beneath the Willow," we're going to have to lead up to this 3rd note. Okay. So what I did there was I led up here, reached my little finger out to get that melody note there, which was the 5th fret on the 1st string there, and I'm holding these fingers down because I want that to drone. And remember that the 4th string open is a D, so we can leave that open and it sounds a lot better. We certainly don't have to grab this F sharp up here. We just leave that open. And sometimes you're going to just let go and you can have just this one finger on the D, and then you've actually got 3 Ds going here. You got a 1st string, a 4th string, and the 2nd string on the 3rd fret is a D. Okay? So you got plenty of D sound there, really. And when I went to the G chord, which was, in comparison, it's called the 4 chord, and in the key of G, the 4 chord was C. Now the 4 chord is G, and we're in this F shape here. Those commonly used melody notes that I was talking about earlier are right here. You've got the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, you've got the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and this middle finger on the 3rd fret 4th string. A lot of melody note, maybe the 1st string too as you pick, but all your little melody notes, you've probably seen a lick like this before. That's the same thing in G. Okay, next we went back to the D chord in the song, and then I went G, that's the 5 chord, and it goes to A in the key of D. You're going to now. The melody note, or that most commonly used melody note on the 5 chord, and in this case an A, is an E note, not the A note. And so I made a point to accent that. You also found that same note, E, right here and out of this A chord. So I use that pretty often. Now back to the root of the chord. And I ended there on the 4th string open, which is one of the great advantages to playing in the key of D, is you have that open 4th string to come back to.